I came across Big Fork Brands recently, and it's become one of those finds you actually want to tell people about, and you don't find that often. Okay. They're doing bacon sausage, plus these really solid pork jerky snacks and Chicago style sauces. Basically, upgrade anything you throw them on burgers, hot dogs, fries, throw it on there. It works.
But I bet it's packed full of junk.
Actually, it's made with clean ingredients and real care. That's small batch with no shortcuts, and people are obsessed with the flavor. You can go over to bigforkbrands.com, use our code INFOGO at checkout, and get 20% off anything on the site.
You can find the link and our code in the show notes. Welcome to the podcast.
Are you recording?
Yes, I did hit record. I did hit
Okay.
record.
Okay. All right.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm William,
And I'm Kat.
and that makes this a dash of info.
Little things you want to know.
So, Kat, I want you to picture this, a courtroom, but not like the ones we know today. There are no fluorescent lights, no microphones, no polished desks, no neat rows of seating. Instead, this is in the late, 1300s. So you have stone walls, it traps the cold. The air is heavy and damp. Torches, they're kind of flickering along the walls, casting shadows that seem to move. And all of that's giving life to the stillness.
A crowd has gathered, packed shoulder to shoulder. Low whispers move through the room like wind through grass, rising and falling as people crane their necks to see the accused. And at the center of it all stands a pig. Not metaphorically, not as folklore, a real sow accused of murder in a formal court of law in Falaise in 1386.
This pig was treated as a legal subject. It had a lawyer. Believe it or not, it had a lawyer. Witnesses testified, evidence was presented, the court deliberated, and once the verdict was reached, well, justice was followed publicly and deliberately. To us, this all seems absurd, almost like a story from a fairy tale. But in medieval Europe, animals were often put on trial for moral or social order. They could disrupt it and they could be held accountable. Order wasn't abstract, it was survival. Chaos demanded a response, and so began one of the most unusual practices in human history, the trial of animals.
Now, to understand the trial, we need to step fully into medieval Europe, the most chaotic, unhinged time there is in history. All right, I'm convinced. Life was harsh. Villages dotted the countryside, and survival depended on the land and the seasons. Cities were crowded, unsanitary, and dangerous. Law was local. There were no police as we know them, no national legal system. Justice was immediate, often public, and tailored to custom. The church dominated society, acting as both spiritual guide and legal authority. When crops failed, diseases struck, or deaths occurred, these events were interpreted as moral indicators, signs that divine or natural order had been disrupted, which wasn't just like the divine or anything like that, wasn't just local or set in medieval times. Okay, it was before that too, but it was live and well during this period as well.
An unhinged time.
Unhinged.
Uh,
Unhinged.
Animals weren't fenced off or treated as separate from human life. Pigs, goats, and chickens, well, they roamed freely in the streets, markets, and yards. They were familiar yet unpredictable. Livestock could destroy property, injure people, or spread disease. So the proximity of humans and animals, well, this created consistent tension, making accountability crucial in a worldview where moral and social order were inseparable. So in 1386, tragedy struck. A sow attacked and killed an infant. Historical records give few human details, but the event set ripples of horror through the village.
It's accused of killing an infant, allegedly, and It's not just bacon. It went to court.
It went to court. It probably became bacon after court. But let's get in to find out what happened to the pig. He may be acquitted.
Wow. The death wasn't interpreted as random. To medieval observers, it violated both natural and divine law. Such a disruption demanded accountability. It wasn't enough to grieve privately. The community needed to see justice carried out. This principle, that moral and social order must be restored, laid the foundation for the pig's trial.
The sow was arrested, taken into custody, and formally charged with murder. The case went before a courtroom, and the animal was treated like a human defendant. The sow had a lawyer, which was appointed to argue the pig's case. Witnesses testified about the events, and the court reviewed the evidence carefully.
I'm shooketh. Medieval legal systems even created detailed procedural rules for animal trials. For instance, in some cases, indictments were written and read aloud in court. Animals could be summoned multiple times. If they failed to appear, fines or ecclesiastical penalties were imposed. Records show that animals were sometimes represented, wow, absentia, by human advocates, a sign of the seriousness with which these trials were conducted.
I know to us this really sounds theatrical and almost hilarious. But for
Uh,
those but for those living in this time, this was justice. This was restoring the moral balance.
this is the wow.
You
This
know,
is real history, folks. You heard it here on Info on the Go.
so I think we're going to take a small break before we come back to find out if this pig is going to be found guilty or acquitted. What do you think?
Break sounds good.
Crispy bacon.
Crispy.
We'll be right back.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Have you thought about what you're getting your mom for Mother's Day? At Cozy Earth, they have a full line of apparel, PJs, shirts, socks, you name it, they have it. And if you buy any of their bedding, they have a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty, free shipping on orders over $50 or more. And our listeners get an exclusive discount of 21% off just by using our code INFOGO at checkout. And you can do that at cozyearth.com. Find the link and the code in the show notes. If you're laying mulch, bedding animals, covering seeds, or just want your property looking right, there's one name you need to know. Irwin Farms, Middle Georgia's #1 wheat straw provider. When it comes to quality wheat straw, it matters. Clean, consistent, and ready to work because they don't cut corners, they bell it. Whether you're a homeowner, gardener, farmer, or you're just getting your hands dirty for the first time, they've got you covered. You can find a link in the show notes. Just Google Middle Georgia's #1 wheat straw provider. Either way, you'll find Irwin Farms. So now that we're back, well, the pig was found guilty. The sentence was death, and it was carried out in a manner similar to human criminals. Contemporary accounts describe the pig being dressed in human clothing, symbolizing guilt, responsibility, and recognition of its actions.
Executions were public and deliberate. It sounds like they wasted a whole lot of time, but I guess they were just, I don't know. Anyway,
Off with his
the,
head!
the purpose wasn't mere punishment, it was teaching. Communities needed to see that disruptions to social and moral order would not go unchecked. Other recorded executions across Europe included hanging pigs, drowning animals, and burning livestock. Public punishments reinforced the authority of the court and the moral order of society.
So the pig of fillets was far from the only animal tried in medieval Europe. From the 13th through the 18th centuries, courts tried, well, rats. They were accused of destroying crops in France and Switzerland. Some were assigned lawyers, and courts took arguments. Like the risk of predators during travel, this was serious.
Insects blamed for infestations of grain or vineyards. Trials sometimes included excommunication for insects or symbolic penalties.
Other livestock, including cows, horses, and donkeys, they were charged with property destruction, harming humans, or even immoral acts like attacking monks or children.
All right. Okay. In some regions, trials were highly ritualized. Animals could be held in prisons, formally indicted, and their legal representatives required to present defenses. There are records of pigs, goats, and cows arrested and held in cages for weeks while awaiting trial. Some trials lasted for days, and lawyers and witnesses meticulously followed local codes.
And this is a part of history. This is real history. These cases really illustrate that medieval Europeans had a highly structured worldview. The legal and moral orders were, well, they were intertwined, and public accountability, even for animals, was a tool to preserve social balance.
People accepted animal trials because of three overlapping factors: religion, responsibility, and control. Religion, well, the world was moral and divinely ordered. Every event had meaning. A pig attacking a child wasn't random, it was a disruption of divine balance.
And then responsibility. Science as we know it did not exist. So misfortune, well, it demanded an accountable party. If humans could not be blamed, animals could.
Oh, and then there's control. Trials reinforced authority and social norms. They demonstrated that even unpredictable or frightening events could be judged and that chaos could be managed. That's fair, I guess. Try to rationalize something tragic that happened instead of calling it neglect.
Through these trials, societies, well, they reaffirmed their moral and social structures. Justice wasn't just about punishment, it was about a public performance of order, teaching the community what was acceptable, what was dangerous, and what must never be ignored.
Now, the story of the Pig of Fillets is more than an oddity. It shows how profoundly human beings crave order, how we attempt to make sense of tragedy, and how we assign blame even when responsibility isn't clear, quote unquote.
So,
Um,
so today we separate animals from moral responsibility. Science explains behavior, but in the medieval worldview, moral, legal, and social orders were inseparable.
the pig's trial reminds us of a world where justice was public, morality was intertwined with law, and even animals could be held accountable. A courtroom, a crowd, a verdict, and a pig standing trial for its life. These moments reveal not absurdity, but the logic, fears, and moral frameworks of a world very different from our own.
Unhinged.
This is the most I have never, and
You,
it's wild. I
you've
I am I am shocked and awed. Like lead makeup and the pasty things and the torture devices for clothes as far that's
you've
unhinged, right? But now we're putting animals on trial in a court of law with lawyers. That is unhinged. It was all the lead face makeup. That's what it was.
well, this is the 1300s. That came along in the 1800s, didn't
They had to have been doing something.
it?
Something led to something somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you've never heard of animals being put on trial?
Heck no.
Yeah, I did, and I found the story of the pig and fillets. I guess in their time it made sense, whereas today we would just say bacon. But could you imagine being the attorney there and, the judge is like, he's representing ham?
I There might just have been too many lawyers or something. They just had to have something for all the lawyers to do. That's what it is.
Could you imagine putting a defense case together for your insect?
Oh no. No. All the locusts. The locusts are now banned from my garden. Okay. What?
Hey, you should get a restraining order for them.
Man. If you would like to support this podcast, tell a friend and help get the word out.
If you want to help us keep the show going and do other shows like this, you can do so by taking advantage of some of our sponsors or Patreon. Either way it goes, the links are in the show notes.
And as always, William and I want to thank you for listening.
Whether you've been with us from day one or just tuned in, thank you.
Join the Facebook group and Info on the Go,
Over there, share with us your show ideas.
or ask us a question.
But whatever you do, make sure you hit that follow button wherever you get your podcast.
Send us a text using the link in the show notes or leave a review.
And leaving that review really does help others find the Synestia podcast. But you can also email Kat and I directly at
infoonthegopodcast@gmail.com.
and you can find all of this in the show notes. Till next time.
Stay curious.
If your stomach's been off lately, like bloating, reflux, or just not feeling right, there's a simpler way to get back on track.
With Professor B's Digestive Aid, which is an all-natural blend of pure honey and ancient apitherapy, a herb rooted in Roman tradition. You know how at least they had some things right? It's designed to gently support and balance your digestion.
No long ingredient list, no harsh additives, just two powerful, time-tested ingredients working together. It's even the same formula used to help cancer patients manage digestive discomfort.
And right now, you can get an exclusive 10% off any product. Just use our code INFOGO at checkout.